History of the Turkish community in Bulgaria. By Ibrahim Yalımov. Sofia, 2002. Preface. The Turkish ethnic community in Bulgaria is a historical fact that was formed as a result of the complex ethnic, social and cultural processes that took place and developed in the specific Bulgarian conditions. As an ethnic minority, it was formed after the Russian-Turkish War, 1877–1878. This community has a Turkish ethnic consciousness and is distinguished from the Bulgarian nationality and from the rest of the Bulgarian people by its language, religion, culture, customs, and traditions. As part of the Bulgarian reality, the Turkish ethnic community occupies a specific place and plays a certain role in the new and most recent history of Bulgaria. Its contribution to the development of certain branches of the Bulgarian economy is indisputable. Due to its significant numbers, it attracts the attention of the various political parties, which need broad social support in order to conquer the administrative structures and power in general. This tangible presence in the economic and socio-political life of the country causes some concern in certain Bulgarian political circles. Interest and concern for the future of the Turkish community are shown by its representatives. The question of the future place and role of this community in the life of Bulgaria has gained extreme relevance in the last 2 or 3 decades. In the 60s of the 20th century, the totalitarian regime focused on the search for opportunities to get rid of her presence in Bulgaria. Having become convinced that through emigration this question could not be radically solved, the regime began to carry out a policy of assimilation, the culmination of which was the so-called revivalist process. This process, the essence of which was a forcible change of ethnic identity, presented the Turkish minority with its own survival and future as the main problem. The future of this minority, its place and role in the development of Bulgaria and the Bulgarian people as a whole, but not the historical one, can be fully illuminated without the study of its historical past. However, its history has not been the subject of comprehensive and objective research until now. The publications on this topic are dedicated to individual issues of the past of the Turkish minority. Among them, monographs and publications by other local authors, in which the policy of the Bulgarian Communist Party among the Turkish population is observed, deserve certain attention. They contain significant factual material related to the period of totalitarian socialism. In general, however, they all share the characteristic shortcomings of party historiography. Their authors reduce the entire civil history to the party history, absolutize certain positive policies of the BCP among the Turkish population, and ignore its attempts to assimilate ethnic minorities. During the years of the so-called revival process, and after that, some collective and individual monographs, many scientific and popular science articles were published, the authors of which try to prove the Bulgarian origin of a Turkish population. They question or openly deny the existence of such a community in Bulgaria. A certain scientific and memoir literature also appeared in Turkey and in some Western countries. The research of Y. Turan, B. Şimşir, H. Memisoglu and some other authors represent a serious contribution to the illumination of the historical past of the Turkish minority in our country. However, the majority of them are dedicated to separate periods of the Turkish minority. The authors show them more interest in the totalitarian period and in cultural history. The historical development of the Turkish population is not considered in the context of Bulgarian history. In some publications, scientific reasoning is still replaced by emotional reasoning and assertions. The increased importance of ethnic problems in Bulgaria and in the world, the need to restore and maintain the tradition of peaceful coexistence between Bulgarians and Turks in the country, require a comprehensive and objective study of the historical past of the Turkish minority. The first steps have been taken in this regard. Despite their merits, the previous publications are unable to shed light on the entire history of the Turkish minority, to objectively reveal the essence of some processes. The history of the Turkish minority in Bulgaria covers a rather long period and, in many cases, is saturated with many controversial events. Their chronological consideration requires the highlighting of separate periods and sub-periods. Based on the development of the historical process in Bulgaria and the experiences of V. Stoyanov and Alexander Popovich, the history of the Turkish minority can be divided into the following four periods. Ottoman. Post-liberation, 1878 to 1918. Period between the two world wars, 1918 to 1939. Period of totalitarian socialism, 1944 to 1990. Each period is characterized by political and cultural events that are quite different from each other. For their better illumination, it is necessary to divide each of them into several sub-periods. The Turkish community actually has a background in the pre-Ottoman period. The present monographic study traces the historical development of the Turkish minority from the appearance of Turkic tribes on the Bulgarian lands until 1990. Undertaking such an attempt also entails some risks, since the separate periods of the historical development of the Turkish minority have not been studied in depth, and the range of publications so far is still limited. In the central and in a number of district historical archives, there are numerous documents reflecting the situation of the Turkish minority, its participation in the public and economic life of the country, the policy of individual governments towards it, and the cultural and educational activities of Turkish organizations and societies. Newspapers published in Turkish in Bulgaria in different periods represent a valuable source. In the preparation of the proposed monograph, the most important part of this source material has been studied and used. This research work is an important prerequisite for an objective approach to the individual events and phenomena of the history of the Turkish minority in Bulgaria. However, it is not possible for one author to cover all the documentation. Researching additional sources, especially those in county-state historical archives, will undoubtedly reveal new details of our historical past. As a result, it is possible that the conclusions and assessments offered in this publication may undergo some correction. That is why the present monograph should be considered as one of the first attempts for a comprehensive and systematic view of the history of the Turkish minority in Bulgaria based on original sources. One of the important features of the historical development of the Turkish minority lies in the fact that it takes place in close connection with the development of the Bulgarian nationality and the entire Bulgarian people. In this sense, the history of the Turkish minority is an integral part of the history of Bulgaria. Of course, due to a number of objective circumstances, the history of this minority is also connected with the history of Turkey. Important historical events such as the Young Turk and Kemalist revolutions, reforms in the culture and lifestyle of the Turkish nation had a serious impact on the development of the Turkish minority. In illuminating individual periods, the author had this two-way influence in mind. Objectively, however, the influence of the historical process in Bulgaria is decisive. Therefore, special attention is paid to it. The author does not pretend to be a comprehensive and final answer to all questions related to the historical past of the Turkish minority in Bulgaria. In the proposed monograph, an attempt is made to illuminate this historical past more comprehensively, systematically, and objectively, with the hope that it will represent an important step on the way to a comprehensive study of our history. Professor Dr. Ibrahim Yalımov was born in 1934 in Gradishte, Shumen region. He graduated from the Turkish High School in Shumen in 1953, and the Faculty of Philosophy and History of Sofia University, Clement Ohridsky, in 1957. For 2 years he was a specialist at the Institute of Social Sciences in Moscow. He worked as a teacher and director in the school in his native village, in the central leadership of the youth organization and in the Turkish-language newspaper Yeni Ishk, New Light. From 1971 to 1992, he was a research associate at the Institute for Contemporary Social Theories at the Presidium of the BAS. He was a teacher of the history of Bulgarian Muslims and Islamic philosophy at the Semi-Higher Spiritual Islamic Institute, and then at the Higher Islamic Institute. He was elected Deputy Director of the Institute of Education and Research and Rector of the Institute of Higher Education in Sofia. He was a national representative in the Seventh Great National Assembly, which adopted the new Constitution of the Republic of Bulgaria. He continues to work as a part-time teacher at the Higher Islamic Institute and at the New Bulgarian University. At the Institute for Modern Social Theories, he defended his doctoral thesis and was elected a senior research associate, second degree, associate professor, in philosophy. For more than 2 decades, he researched problems related to the history of Turkish socio-philosophical thought. In the last decade, he has been dealing with the history of the Turkish minority in Bulgaria and the history of Islamic philosophy. He has published a number of monographs, studies, and scientific articles. He contributed to scientific reports and announcements at national and international forums.